I cannot imagine the heartbreak it is to go through losing your husband while you have 2 little babies. Erika and Charlie really weren't married that long before he passed away, and I cannot fathom going through that. I feel so much sorrow and sadness for her. Yes, she has been publicly caught lying for multiple things, and obviously that's odd and weird. I don't understand her being able to forgive Tyler Robinson as quickly as she did. As for the sparklers and all the things, was it a bad time to do it? Yeah. Did it not sit well with the general public? Yeah. To be a transgender furry or whatever he is, to show up looking like a full dude when he's testifying, even though that letter that got leaked that Tyler Robinson had written to Lance Twiggs called Lance Luna. So Lance is out here living as Luna, and then he comes dressed as a man, I'm sure, to make himself look a little less crazy, inviting my husband's worst enemy to speak at his memorial service. It's things like that that don't really seem to make a lot of sense to me. Not long after their AmFest event, the producer of Daily Wire was calling me, and it truly did seem like they were panicked, wanting to start up a show to make fun of a former employee so quickly after things were going really in a weird direction at AmFest. One, it's like concerning that the leaders of our political movement are all constantly infighting on Twitter with each other. Alex Clark of Turning Point USA, I believe she was calling, which I didn't know who she even was at the time. And she called and she interviews me. And, it was from Turning Point, though, that had my back. And I don't even like Alex Clark. I find her incredibly annoying and hard to watch. Not a fan, personally. But a lot of my friends love her. It's just like Turning Point, though, they were one of the first people that had my back. And after all of that happened, I went to a Turning Point event not long after. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Patchwork Podcast. It's been a long time since I've filmed a podcast episode or really even wanted to. I feel like every time I've sat down to film any kind of video, even for Instagram or TikTok or whatever it may be, I have felt absolutely no drive to make a video, and I have felt no words come to my brain when I want to speak about something because I feel so incredibly frustrated with our government and the media and how I constantly feel like I am being lied to, even if it's by people that I trust. I was talking to my friend the other day about the 4th of July, and normally every year the 4th of July is my favorite holiday. I love it. I love the 4th of July and New Year's because New Year's you get the new year, everything feels great, but with 4th of July you get fireworks, there's no pressure, you're just celebrating freedom in our country, and I love it. And this year I felt really bummed out on the 4th of July, which was sad because it's our 250th anniversary. I went to one of the bars in Nashville to try to watch the fireworks show because it's probably the last year my husband and I will be in Nashville. And so we were like, oh, we should watch it, and we couldn't really see it too good from where we were at, but I really wanted to enjoy the night. People were chanting, they were like, USA, USA. I didn't want to join in. And none of this is to be ungrateful. Truly, I am so grateful to be an American citizen and to have the freedoms that I have and the rights that I have. I know how blessed I am to live in the United States of America and for the life that I've been given. And I love our country. I love our country so much. I think I just was feeling really bummed out, like I can't even trust the people that we've elected to run our government, our politicians and the media. I've been thinking about the media a lot this week and who you can trust and what you can trust, and it's kind of just gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't really trust anybody. And I posted something on my Instagram story the other day, but I never talked online about all the Charlie Kirk stuff that happened outside of the fact that he's passed away, how sad it is, and nothing at all has felt the same since Charlie Kirk died. And I say this as someone that never knew Charlie Kirk. I had gone to Turning Point events via work at my previous job. We had been vendors at Turning Point events and things like that. I really liked going to their events. I would always get excited because I loved Charlie Kirk. I listened to him debate people all the time. I thought he was so articulate. He was a very happy guy. And I remember most people in the media, I feel like they have a really bad temper. They flip out, they tweet insane things on X and all the things. But I remember there's only one video of Charlie Kirk I've ever seen where he had a temper whatsoever. And I truly believe that is so impressive for somebody that was in the media as long as he was, because I just think you would catch me having a temper a lot quicker than that. That video, it was him speaking at some event. He was on stage, he had a mic, and he started yelling at someone in the audience, and I believe they were talking about like how he uses his money and like what he donates to. I could be totally off, but that's my memory of the clip. But all that to say, Charlie Kirk was such an influential person for our generation, and he made so many people care about politics that would have never cared. And I have such a heart for the youth and for Gen Z, and I felt like Charlie shared that same love for Gen Z that I have, and desire for our generation to wake up and to be okay, and to be able to fight mental health issues and loneliness and porn addictions and phone addiction, social media addiction, sadness, depression, all the things that our generation has dealt with. I felt like he was one of the only people from the generation ahead of us that like really cared about trying to help us, you know? And that means something. Watched every minute of the preliminary hearing. It's my dream to go on jury duty. So anytime there's a huge trial or anything like that going on, I watch every minute of it as if I am a juror. And I know this was just a preliminary hearing, there was no jury, but I watch it as if I am one, and I try to make the decision as if I'm a juror. The reason I've not really posted anything online about my thoughts or opinions on the trial, how on earth am I supposed to have a fully informed opinion at this point? You just can't. People might say there was plenty of evidence to even convict Tyler Robinson just through the preliminary hearing. I personally would not say that. I think there's a lot of weirdness going on with this entire situation. I think there's a lot of things that just don't make sense to my brain about what I know about this event, and in my personal opinion and where I'm at now, which this is being filmed. This is Friday was the last day of the preliminary hearing, and it's Saturday. So I felt like the judge was so fair, truly. I don't have all this great knowledge of how the court is supposed to go and all the things, and it was obviously frustrating how they had to stop every 2 seconds and listen to the lawyers yap for 45 minutes about their thoughts. I've never seen people that love to hear themselves talk more than lawyers, and that felt very evident during watching this case. It was a little frustrating, but I understood, and I felt like that's what made it so fair. And I felt like it was fair that they didn't show the evidence on the screen the last day because they accidentally showed evidence the previous day. I'm saying all of this to give you a perspective from somebody who is 24 years old, who loved Charlie Kirk, who disagreed with him on a lot of things and who agreed with him on a lot of things. As for all the noise surrounding everything going on, I will say this. I enjoy listening to Tim Dillon, Candace Owens, Allie Beth Stuckey, Riley Gaines, Baron Coleman, Ian Carroll, Megyn Kelly. I love Megyn Kelly. Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh. I listen to people all over the conservative political spectrum that have been debating this thing out, that have totally different perspectives. I've listened to Ben's videos on it. I listen to everyone because truly I never want to become somebody that allows myself to sit in an echo chamber and to only listen to one side and to only believe what one side says, because I think that's dumb. And I think you should hear everybody out, and I think you should talk to people that disagree with you. And I think you're better off for it. I've listened to virtually every opinion on, the conservative side of things. I cannot imagine the heartbreak it is to go through losing your husband while you have 2 little babies. Erika and Charlie really weren't married that long before he passed away. And I cannot fathom going through that. And I can't even pretend to understand an ounce of what Erika is going through. I really can't. And I feel so much sorrow and sadness for her. On the other hand, I also believe there's a lot of really weird things going on surrounding Turning Point, surrounding decisions the company has made, surrounding, the way they've talked about what Charlie believed versus kind of what Charlie said he believed. I think there's a lot of weird things surrounding his assassination the day of, the weeks leading up to it. To give a few examples, there were people posting on TikTok days before Charlie died about something big happening on 9/10, about something bad was going to happen to Charlie Kirk, the song that was released, all the things. It was obvious that there was some group of students that knew this was going to happen, of young people. This was incredibly obvious as it was documented and posted online. And to me, that's one of the biggest things that I'm like, why is nobody really digging into that? That's so weird, because I do think there were more people involved. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. I think Lance Twiggs, to be a transgender furry or whatever he is, to show up looking like a full dude when he's testifying, even though that letter that got leaked that Tyler Robinson had written to Lance Twiggs called Lance Luna. So Lance is out here living as Luna, and then he comes dressed as a man, I'm sure, to make himself look a little less crazy during the preliminary hearing and to make himself look a little more trustworthy. but I have some questions for Lance, and I would imagine Tyler Robinson's defense team has some questions for him because they weren't allowed to cross-examine him. And I understand the laws, the preliminary hearing, blah, blah, blah. I get it. They'll be able to do it at trial. I get it. It's just like obviously a little frustrating as someone watching from the outside that would like to have all of the details, you know? I have friends that work for Turning Point, and I have people in my life that love Turning Point, that hate Turning Point, all across the spectrum of people that think all kinds of different things about what happened with Charlie Kirk. And that's okay. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinions. I don't think it's okay to be making fun of Erika. We don't know. The truth of the matter is we truly do not know what happened that day yet. And we won't have any kind of full idea until after the trial takes place, assuming that the trial is honest and real and on good terms and good faith. And I pray that it is for Charlie and his family. Again, at the end of the day, you can't have a fully formed opinion yet about everything, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't think it's right to be making fun of Erika. As far as we know, evidence-wise, yes, she has been publicly caught lying for multiple things, and obviously that's odd and weird. Does it open the door for you to be able to make fun of her online? I don't know. She's a public figure, is the CEO of Turning Point USA, and obviously she is Charlie Kirk's widow. So there's just a lot of things into play there that make this a really tricky situation. Under normal circumstances, would it be okay to critique her as a liar or certain decisions that the company's making that Charlie wouldn't have made? Absolutely. But it is hard because I have a heart for people. And I'm thinking about her at night in her room when Charlie's not there and, you know, everyone's asleep. And I just feel like that would be the hardest when you're alone at night sitting with your thoughts and feelings and you're alone. You're just alone and your husband's not there anymore. And I cannot imagine how that would feel. And like, I just think about that when I think about Erika, and like, I truly do hurt for her. And I can acknowledge that while also thinking two things can be true at once, that there's a lot of weird decisions that she has made and behavioral things that she's done that I don't agree with, nor would I hope that I would do. God forbid anything happened to my husband. There's a lot of things that I don't understand that she did. I don't understand her being able to forgive Tyler Robinson as quickly as she did. And that could be a heart posture thing for me. That could be a heart problem for me, that maybe I'm not as strong as a believer as Erika is, or maybe I'm not as connected to God as she is. But I personally would never, ever be able to forgive anybody that fast for the horrendous thing that he did to her husband. Forgiveness is a good thing, and I think you should get there and be able to forgive people, but I don't know if I would ever get there. And she just seemed to get to it so soon. And so maybe it's a heart posture thing. To me, it's also hard to understand how somebody could reach a place of forgiveness so quickly. I understand how you could reach a place where you could maybe say it, but I don't understand from a human being perspective how your heart could be ready for that so quickly. And so I think that's odd to me sometimes. As for the sparklers and all the things, I honestly, Turning Point does that. That's what they're known for. Charlie always said, make it bigger, make it better, more sparklers, more smoke, you know, that there's so much documented videos and stuff of Charlie talking about that and how he just always wanted it to be bigger. And so I think in a lot of ways, what they were trying to do at the memorial was sparklers, fireworks, all the things, because that's what Charlie loved. And I think they were trying to make it into one of those big Turning Point events that Charlie would have done. Was it a bad time to do it? Yeah. Did it not sit well with the general public? Yeah. Even though we really were all with them at that point. Everybody was with Turning Point at that point still. I do think it's weird that Ben Shapiro was invited to speak, given what we know about how much they seem to dislike each other. I do find that odd because, again, I can't imagine like inviting my husband's worst enemy to speak at his memorial service. It's things that like that don't really seem to make a lot of sense to me. I think there is a lot of amazing people that work for Turning Point, just as I think there are a lot of amazing people that work for Daily Wire, while I don't agree with the higher up decisions that the company makes a lot of the time. But there's also the side of it where not long after their AmFest event, I believe it was the day after, if my memory serves me right, it's been so long at this point, but the day after, a few days after, was when the producer of Daily Wire was calling me, and it truly did seem like they were panicked, and it was weird. It was truly weird to me, wanting to start up a show to make fun of a former employee so quickly after things were going like really in a weird direction at AmFest with a lot of the speeches being given. There's just a lot of things that don't make sense to me surrounding everything, and I hate watching everyone argue on Twitter nonstop all the time, which obviously is selective. I could turn off Twitter, I could delete it. But I'm just saying, as a whole, watching people behave this way, where they're constantly arguing on Twitter at all hours of the day, one, it's concerning that the leaders of our political movement are all constantly infighting on Twitter with each other. It doesn't really feel like we're fighting a lot of the problems that we all were united with fighting at one point, and that makes me really sad. I have so many questions about everything going on, and it just breaks my heart at the end of the day. It makes me so sad. I miss Charlie Kirk and watching his videos. I know so many people that knew him and their lives were touched by him, and they thought of him as an amazing figure and looked up to Charlie. And I think a lot of us in Gen Z really looked up to Charlie and appreciated what he was doing. I remember when I first got canceled in 2023. I believe it was 2023 when I got canceled at SCAD. I posted the project on October 12th. Again, fact check me on all of these dates. They could be wrong, but I didn't realize the project that I had shared. So it was Chloe Cole's, detransition story and all the things. I've made videos about it before. Apparently I posted it on like National Transgender Day or whatever it was. I had no idea. To be fair, I probably wouldn't have posted the project on that day had I known. I understand bad timing, but it's also really funny in retrospect, and I just have to laugh at it now. But anywho, one of the first people to interview me about what had happened, I want to say it was Alex Clark of Turning Point USA. I believe she was calling, which I didn't know who she even was at the time. And she called and she interviews me. I again, don't fact check me on all this. I got to look back at it now. I'm 99% sure it was Alex Clark that called to interview me. I don't know if she was writing for them at the time, maybe some politics stuff that she had done. I don't know. I didn't know who she was at the time. It was from Turning Point though, that had my back. And I don't even like Alex Clark. I find her incredibly annoying and hard to watch. Not a fan personally, but a lot of my friends love her. It's just like Turning Point though, they were one of the first people that had my back. And after all that happened, I went to a Turning Point event not long after, 1 or 2 days after, and Candace Owens was speaking at it. And I was freaking out because I've loved Candace Owens for so long. And, it was so cool. It was some school in Georgia at the time that she was speaking at. And so it was such a cool experience. I remember I'd spent all of this time at SCAD, this super liberal school. And yes, of course, I've spent time on the left and I came over to the right. But after just getting, knocked off of our feet with this photo shoot and how obliterated we were getting online, it was a breath of fresh air to sit at a Turning Point event where we were all on the same page. You didn't feel scared, like you couldn't make some kind of joke that was going to offend some furry across the room, and you didn't have to ask anyone's pronouns before you said anything, and you could say all the words that you're not allowed to say, around all your lefty friends. It was such an amazing experience. I remember just feeling so alive and on fire and being like, we are going to change America. This is so awesome. That's what Turning Point was. That's how it made you feel. And I don't really know if it has that same effect on people anymore. I hope it does. I hope Charlie's legacy is not lost and gone. And I hope that Turning Point is able to make the company what he wanted it to be and what it was. But there is a lot of things that don't quite make sense to me. Another weird thing that is making me just so mad right now about politics and about the world, and is why I feel like I can't make videos, because the information is constantly changing so quickly that whatever I reported on yesterday will be a lie the next day. And that's so frustrating, because I don't want to be a liar and I always want to present the truth, but it's really difficult to present the truth when the sources that you're getting it from are all a bunch of liars. And I'm not saying I have the wrong sources. The literal facts change day by day. Yesterday, war with Iran. Today, ceasefire. Tomorrow, probably going to be at war with them again. Next day, ceasefire. Day after that, probably bombing them again. You know what I'm saying? You can't trust anyone. When you're constantly changing day after day about everything going on in the world with Epstein, lie after lie after lie, changing everything. Every day it would be a new thing. We have the information on our desk right now. We've got the files. We're going to release them. We're bringing influencers to the White House. We're going to release them. Boom, nothing. Boom, nothing. We're releasing them, but we're redacting everything, and we're also throwing out all the victims' names and information. But also, we're not giving you a lot of the real information that's really going to convict these people. Nothing's really going to come from any of it, because at the end of the day, we don't care, and these people really do run our country. That's where my brain is at, and it's frustrating. I don't consider myself to be a negative person, but when you're constantly reporting on things online that are so negative, that's what the news is. The news is just negative. That's the nature of it a lot of the time. It kind of feels hard to have a positive perspective on the world. And I think we can't lose what's important here. There's so many things that are so important going on in our country right now. But my brain cannot handle all of it. One, because we are taking in such a large amount of information constantly that it feels like so difficult to even focus on one thing. But also, I feel burnt out from the news, from Trump, from Republican versus Democrat, from people fighting on Twitter, from the podcast wars, from news changing day in, day out. It's exhausting for the general public. And I hope that the people participating in all of this can understand that. Constantly watching people argue and fight and call each other liars. Literally everyone is calling each other a liar. That's another thing that's really, again, it's so difficult to know who to get your news from because everyone calls each other a liar and unreliable, and everybody is hell-bent on the fact that they are the ones telling the truth. And even with this, like Tyler Robinson, Turning Point USA, Candace Owens, all the different things, everybody's 1,000,000,000% sure that they're correct. Somebody's got to be wrong at the end of all of this, It's all really frustrating. And again, at the end of the day, I think about this situation with Charlie and kind of just what his death has turned into, and it just makes me sad because Charlie was such an awesome person and he always seemed so happy. And again, I can have my critiques of the things that Turning Point's doing, the things that don't make sense, and I can have a lot of questions while also at the same time being incredibly sad that we lost such an amazing figure and such a smart person that was such a good leader. After Charlie's death, we saw that. After we've seen the conservative movement kind of fall apart, we've seen, okay, wow, he kind of was really the leader of the conservative movement. And it's kind of just crazy. And it makes me so sad. And he was so young, and it really just puts life into perspective for you and really makes you want to hug your loved ones tighter. So I guess the reason at the end of all of this for even wanting to make this podcast episode after I hadn't filmed in so long was because I just don't really have the words anymore to speak on any of this. I don't have the energy to speak on it. I left my former job working in an athletic company and I loved them. They were great people, but it was time for me to do something else. And so I've moved to doing photography and graphic design freelance full time. And I just feel so happy. I feel like I'm doing what I love again. I feel like I'm creating and making art and all the fun things like I've always cared about. And I feel like I'm really getting to do that day in and day out, and I've really loved it. My friend Abigail really encouraged me to quit my job. She was like, you got to do it. You got to go freelance full time. You've got to go do your own thing. You're going to be so much happier. You're going to love what you're doing. You're going to have full creative freedom. And I was like, I know, and I was scared to make the leap because one, I loved all the people that I worked with, but also there's so much security in having that paycheck. But I couldn't be happier. And I'm so, so happy that I'm doing my own thing now. And it's just been great. So if anyone needs any photos or graphic design done, please reach out. I really miss doing a lot of social issue projects, so I'm going to try to get back into that again. I love that, and it makes me so happy, and I feel like that's kind of what feeds my soul is trying to do artwork that really makes noise and makes people look and think, and I want to make more of that and really put my heart and soul into that, but I also love cinematic storytelling, documentary style photography. I love that. And I love doing that through styled shoots and just really, I put my heart and soul into every photo shoot that I do. And so I just love doing that. It's made me so happy. So I've really been working on that a lot lately and haven't really had the time or passion to make videos quite as often because it feels so dark out there. It feels like the algorithm just encourages negativity and things that cause arguments. When really at the end of the day, as a human being and not online, yes, I'm a controversial person, I would feel like, but I feel like I'm quite agreeable in a lot of ways and I get along with most everyone that I meet and I'm able to talk to anyone. And in the online world, things just feel so polarized and it was making me kind of sad at society, and you just see the worst and the worst of people when you talk politics online because people, that's their whole world. It's sad because there's so much more to that, and when you are with people in real life, you might have a billion different political disagreements with someone, but when you really get to know them as a human being, you can say, wow, this is a really good person. I might not agree with their theory on this or their opinion here or who they voted for in this election, but I can see that they're a good person. And I think that's important. And that's so much of what Charlie Kirk talked about. That was why he did what he did, because what was his quote? That when people stop talking, violence starts happening. And gosh, could there not be a more true quote? So much of what we've watched happen on the right, it's devastating because we've watched so many friendships break apart. We've watched so many amazing, strong alliances break apart. And honestly, more than anything, I would just love to see a debate panel of everyone on the right that's been, fighting with each other for so long. I would like to see them all get up there and debate. I would like to see a fair moderator, and I would like to see the entire thing live streamed. And I think that's fair. Sat back and watched everyone debate and fight for 10 months and call each other liars and have their disagreements on their own podcast platforms. But I think it's fair to the general public to have some sort of debate or reckoning with each other live in person with a moderator writer, with a fact checker, whatever you need. Because like the conservative movement, it's not going to last if we keep doing this. Like if we just keep this petty infighting going on all the time and can't get back to the root of the problem, that we still do have a very serious immigration problem, radicalization problem, transgenderism problem, the food, the data centers being built, the fact that graphic design will likely not be a job in the next 10 years. My job is already virtually being done by AI. Most of my clientele, for graphic design is a lot of people coming to me with things that were clearly made by AI and saying, can you fix this, essentially, which I'm more than happy to do. And that's fine. I've learned to work with AI, but it is sad in a lot of ways. I hope that we get to a point where human touch still matters and that people just start going back to human beings because they've realized there is a certain value to that. And you can see it. To me, it's so obvious when things are created with AI, and it's such a bad look. I've seen a lot of people using AI for models, for photos, for logos, for advertising, for videos, all the things. And I think it's really cheap, and I think it's not beautiful. It doesn't connect to people's souls. I hope and pray people will see that and that they will reject AI, because as someone that's in the art world that truly cares about creating beautiful things with meaning and has a passion for it. And I think that art, not to sound like a gay liberal, but art really does bring people together in a lot of ways, and it speaks volumes. And to be able to, put a piece up that really makes people think and question things, I think that's a beautiful thing. And AI can't do that. Sure, it can try, but it's just not the same when it's AI. It's not the human beauty and touch to it. It's like seeing a photo of the Mona Lisa versus seeing the real thing in person. It's not the same at all. And I hope that people see that with all of this AI crap. But yeah, if you are in the art world and if you are a creator or whatever sense, I think there is a very true aspect to it that AI is probably going to be taking over a large portion of my job. I've started to lean more into the photography, I think, because of that as well. Not only do I have a passion for it, but I get to be around people. I get to create things with human beings again, and I've really missed that. And you don't really get to do that when you're staring at a screen all day for graphic design, and that was really a bummer. I was at something the other day, and we were all talking about who we would vote for in 2028, and literally every person there said, I have no idea. I have no idea who I would vote for because we don't know who we can trust. We don't know who to follow anymore. We don't know if we can trust Vance because Trump's administration has been such a massive failure, and it's been so disappointing. I have critiqued his administration more than I probably have critiqued the left at this point. The last 8 months, which I don't really know is the greatest thing, but I think I've just felt so bummed out because I was at the inauguration. I drove 12 hours to DC. I stood outside in the freezing rain. Should have dressed properly and I didn't, but it was raining and it was the coldest temperature ever, and I thought my feet were gonna fall off, and I stood outside, and for 6-7 hours? No, maybe 5-6 hours. Could have been 8. It was a long time. My memory probably blacked out because of how cold I was and I thought I was dying. But anyways, did this 2 days in a row, and we only got into the inauguration one of the days. That's how behind his campaign I was. And I really fought for it. I really lost so much to defend the Trump administration. I don't think a lot of people understand how hard it is being in the art world and all your best friends and everyone you love being super far on the left, your whole career really being in the left when you're a creative. And to kind of give that all up and say, no, I want to go work for the conservatives and try to help them create something beautiful. I'm going to outwardly be a conservative. I'm going to outwardly support Trump. That's not an easy thing to do. So then to have him turn back around and to kind of act like he doesn't care about anyone that disagrees with his administration and the people that are really disappointed. When you make big promises, you have to keep big promises. And Trump's administration did not keep their big promises. So it's been disappointing to see, and I've critiqued it a lot. But do I think his administration has done a lot of good? Yeah, I do. And I think they've made a lot of great decisions, and I think it started off really strong, and I was really excited about it at the beginning. And I think it's better than Kamala. Am I disappointed with him and think that he is an egotistical, crazy person? Yeah. But I've always thought that, and I also I think he's funny. And I think that he's a likable person in a lot of ways. He's not likable, but he is, and he's funny because he's self-deprecatory. And I think that's hilarious. He's been through a lot. I think a lot of the people on the right can relate to that because we've all been through a lot to support, our values and beliefs and to be outspoken the way a lot of the right is. So, I think he has some good qualities and a lot of the things, but I also am incredibly disappointed, So I hope that I'll keep making videos here and there and talking about my thoughts and opinions on things. Please comment and let me know if there's ever anything that you'd like to hear me talk about. I care so much about Gen Z, and I want to be a good person that people can look up to. I want to make good decisions, and I want to not say dumb things online that I'm going to regret years later, like I've always done. I always say dumb things online, and I look back and I'm like, why did I say that online? And I think that's one of the hardest things about growing up in Gen Z and how prevalent the online world is and posting things online and maybe speaking too soon about things. Like, I regret that a lot of the time. I do. Your digital footprint is forever, and that's unfortunate, but that's also just the nature of the world that we live in, and I've learned to accept that. But I love our generation, and I love America, and I care about America, and I want our country to be okay. And, I want us to feel patriotic again and really feel like we have something to fight for. But I honestly think a lot of people just feel really bummed out and numb to everything. And it's hard to care when everything's constantly being shoved in your faces at all hours of the day. Like, it feels like you can't care about anything because people want you to care about everything. So you just stop caring and become really desensitized to it. And I don't want that to be me. And I think that's why I'm trying to not really post the way I used to and really think on things and just take time to give things thought. I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing for people to be uploading videos every single day. It's a lot. Other than, some people truly just have a God-given talent for it and are amazing at it and need to be on air 24/7. Some people are just that kind of talent. But for people like myself, I am not someone that needs to be speaking 24/7 on a live stream or online for that matter. I am someone that probably shouldn't be speaking online at all. Sometimes just say things that I'm like, why did I put that out there? That was incredibly cringy, and now that's out there forever. So think about things before you do them. I always tell people that because I'm getting a tattoo removed right now for my impulsive phase. I used to be very impulsive, especially with tattoos. And one time I was getting a tattoo that I made an appointment for like days prior. And in the middle of getting that tattoo, I was like, if I think of something else right now, will you tattoo it? And he was like, yeah. That was how quickly I made my kind of decisions. Anyways, 3 years later, I'm getting it removed? I think I started getting it removed a year and a half ago, though. So that's crazy. But I think we just got to sometimes think a little bit more about the decisions that we make. And I think being in an online world where you're constantly trying to get views and attention and all the things, I just don't want to seek that, because I don't think more views and attention is necessarily a good thing for anyone. In today's day and age, a lot of times what drives views is conflict. I don't think that's a good thing. I will conclude all of this by saying I still have such a heart and a love for everyone in the conservative movement, and it's made me really sad to see what it's become. I hope and pray that we can be better, and I hope and pray that we can get back to a point where we are fighting for the things that matter in America and fixing our communities and our country, because I want to have kids one day and I want them to grow up in a world that they love and a world that I love.